I'm here with Miss Bird today, and she is the Executive Director of Downtown Main Street, Bardstown. So to start off, I had some questions about overall, what is something when you first look at a resume that
Sure.
you are looking for specifically, content-wise?
Well, one of the great things that I saw within your resume, Lizzie, was the fact that you had a profile, and I think that's very important. When you look at an individual's overall resume, you want to kind of get to know that person and get to know how their experience would be relevant to the industry, like hospitality and tourism. So when I'm looking at the individual's profile, that's very important. When I do not see an individual's story right off the bat or how their experiences are relevant to the industry, that's just one of the first things that I look for. So when I don't see that, it makes it difficult to kind of get to know that individual right off the bat.
Right. So when you are interviewing someone for a certain position,
Sure.
would you say that the resume is kind of the first thing that you look at, or do you look at the person, first impression wise?
I think it's a mixture of both. Obviously, you're going to look at a person's demeanor or how well they communicate when you ask them specific questions. Those questions in particular that are relevant to the industry that they are wanting to go into. For your sake, it would be hospitality and tourism. So as I come in and ask you specific industry questions, I'll look and see how maybe your relevant experience kind of matches up with your resume. So maybe some of the things that you've put down as in terms of your profile or your work experience or your strengths, how do those match up with the questions that I'm asking you and your answers? So it's a mixture of both. I'll see how you handle the situation in general, and then I'll see how those answers match up with the actual overview that you've put on your resume.
Okay, and within the resume, how much work experience do you think that a person needs to include?
Usually I think if you go back anywhere from 3 to 5 years, I think the last maybe 3 potential job positions that you've had, I think you've done really well with this. Obviously you have started your own business, and then in addition to that, you've worked within the community and you've taken on leadership roles within your school. So I think it's a good mixture for someone looking over your resume and kind of getting to know a little bit about the relevant experience you have in relation to the industry.
Right. So for you, what is one thing that is a no from the start? That when you're looking at a resume, you're just like, no?
I think it depends on, I don't think it's an initial no. I think it just depends on that individual's strengths and how they match up with whatever job role they're going into. When I look at your resume, I'm looking at some of the top qualities when you're looking for someone in the hospitality industry, and obviously leadership is key because you need to know how to resolve conflict and problem solve. You have obviously great communication skills, so that's an excellent quality to have. Organization is also key because you're going to be, sometimes it's going to be high stress and you're going to take on a multitude of tasks. So as I look at this, I look at your strengths as an individual, how they match up with your profile, and then again, some of the experience that's relevant. I don't think that there's an initial no, because you have to get to know the individual. Everybody may not have, when I look at it, it's kind of hard to say. Everybody may not be able to, you can see things on the resume, but when you ask them those initial questions, they may have way more information and way more experiences and stories to share. So you kind of have to get to know the individual before you can make or judge someone based off of that resume. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
So how elaborated do your qualifications have to be? Your strengths and that kind of thing.
Well, I think you definitely need to key in on things that you're confident with as in terms of your own strengths. That plays a key factor. Obviously your interests, because they want to get to know you as an individual or the person that you are. But even when I look at work experience, it would be nice to have maybe a little bit more of a detailed overview so that I could see some of the specific tasks that you took on as an individual within those roles. Doesn't have to be a lot, but it could give you a better snapshot when looking over the resume. And I think as a profile, getting to know the person from the beginning or the start when you look at this resume, if you could be, and I think we talked about this, a little bit more specific in relation to the industry, I think you've got a great start here. But I think if you look at the skills that you possess and you want to highlight those, you're trying to sell yourself and tell your story. So I think you have a great start, I think, as in terms of maybe focusing on customer service skills, because obviously you started your own business, like I said again, or teamwork. You know, how have you worked well with the team? You're a house steward, so I know that you've probably done and you're involved in extracurricular activities, and maybe put some of those extracurricular activities on there, because those could also be beneficial when someone is looking over your resume as well.
So when you are including extracurriculars into your work experience, what would you say the kinds of extracurriculars are appropriate to include in a resume?
And I think those would be the ones that are relevant, because obviously, I think you said you were involved in STLP, absolutely relevant to the industry, or in leadership positions, depending on beta or whatever else you're involved in, 100% relevant. And I think those will carry over with your strengths and obviously who you are and how you shine as an individual. And I think that's important. You need to make sure those, that are looking over your resume or when you're applying for a job know that.
Okay. I learned in this session today that when you are creating a resume and going into the interview process, that you need to keep in mind that you are showcasing the very best version of yourself. And you need to hand fit your resume in the industry that you are in fact pursuing. I want to thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
Go Generals.